9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Good morning. Hope you are doing well. Mac Morey producing. Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and you on the Super Text line and the phone lines at 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. We got a big show today. Lots of stuff happening in the news. I do want to address one more time the story that broke yesterday on 40 babies being beheaded in Israel by Hamas. Now, I don't want anybody to think for a second that I am holding water for Hamas. I think they're barbaric, terrible, terrible people. What they did is absolutely abhorrent. And they should be dealt with, and luckily I think that they will be dealt with. I think Israel's going to go in there and give them the business. It seems like for all intents and purposes, that will be happening any moment. And they will regret everything they've done. But this baby story just keeps weighing on me. Now, maybe I don't want it to be true because I have 4 young children and a crime like that just feels so evil. Maybe it's my own bias, right? But this report of Israeli babies being beheaded by Hamas is sparking a lot of pushback. And I brought it up yesterday that some of the pushback, I would have to say, isn't so much what's in the report as it is what's been reported before that has become provably false. So I immediately brought up yesterday the Kuwaiti volunteer who testified in front of Congress that Iraqi soldiers were taking babies out of incubators and leaving them on the floor, which eventually resulted in us going into the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. Now, if you haven't heard that testimony or you haven't seen that before, it sounded like this, and excuse the dramatic music in the background. This is the only quick edit I could find at the moment. But this is what it sounded like during that testimony.
They pulled out his fingernails and applied electric shock to sensitive private parts of his body. I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
It sounds like, what these monsters, how could they do that? We need to do something. And had it been true, I would agree with you, but it was provably false. And it led us into the Gulf War. Now, I'm not saying that we need excuses to support Israel, but it does feel like sometimes some of this reporting feels like it's trying to emotionally manipulate us into supporting one side or the other. And I mentioned this a couple of days ago. It seems like with this Israeli conflict and the terrorist attack by Hamas, it seems like both sides are just heavy propaganda. It's really hard to get it's really hard to get any unbiased source. I'll put it that way. It is. There's no such thing as a non-biased source. Now, but with this 40 babies, children that were had their decapitated, I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. It just seems like an extraordinary claim, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And that's where I'm at with that. And it seems like a lot of the confirmation that's happening is circular. You know, Fox News is confirmed, CNN is confirmed, MSNBC is everybody's confirming. But when you trace the story back, it goes back to one reporter for I-24 TV in Israel. On Twitter, she seems to be walking it back a little bit. On Twitter last night, she says, soldiers told me they believe 40 babies' children were killed. The exact death toll is still unknown as the military continues to go house to house and find more Israeli casualties. Now, I also want to point out one baby is one too many. It just is. And there's no excuse for killing children in warfare. But again, this seems like an extraordinary claim, and it requires extraordinary evidence. And even Sky News out of Australia echoes what I'm saying, that there isn't a high level of evidence behind what originated as one claim from one reporter.
Many of the newspapers, the Metro, the Times, the Telegraph, leading on these reports from Kfar Aza. We saw our correspondent Stuart Ramsey's report from there. It seems to have come from one Israeli journalist who said that she was told by soldiers there that 40 babies had died and some of them had been beheaded. Yeah. Truly horrifying. We have not seen the evidence of that. We have asked the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, 3 times to confirm those numbers. They have not yet. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but we saw a body bag with 1 child in it today when we were at Kfar Aza with this facility by the Israeli army.
So they asked for confirmation. They didn't receive confirmation. People online are saying the Israeli army is not going to give you confirmation. And they did say that they saw a body bag with 1 child. Terrible. 1 too many. Honestly, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it doesn't feel like there's extraordinary evidence.
Yes, and I think it's important to recognise that emotions are very high at this point, and you are looking at women and children who have been murdered in this situation. That is undeniable. Mm-hmm. I think that there is an issue around the verification of this particular sentiment, which in itself is so horrifying. It forces the emotions. I think when I read this, I assumed that it was true, that it wasn't contended at all. And the horror that you feel when you think that this is potentially something that's happened is enormous. So it is very important to have the verification of something like this. And if you look down on the Metro here that you have up there, they've put it in quotation marks, and they've talked about the Israeli claim of 40 babies having been beheaded. And if you look down some of the other papers, so the Telegraph, for example, they say that the Telegraph could not verify the claim. But it is important to say that we know that women and children have been killed in this massacre.
And there's no doubt about that women and children have been killed. There's no doubt that Hamas are absolute barbarians. There just isn't any doubt. I just see these stories and I get flashbacks to the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, where we're hearing things about the ghost of Kyiv or Snake Island. And these are reported as truth and facts for months until they're debunked. I mean, let's take the Snake Island martyrs, for instance, at the beginning of the Ukraine conflict. 13 Ukrainian border guards stationed on Snake Island, located right in the Black Sea, were quickly alleged to have been killed by Russian forces at the onset of the invasion. And allegedly, they had audio recordings of their final moment that went viral on social media when the Russians demanded, "Lay down your arms," and then the Ukrainians replied, "Go F yourself." And, everybody was like, "Yeah, woo, you show Russia." Well, everybody believed that they were martyrs, but those 13 Ukrainians who allegedly replied, "Go F yourself," were taken captive by the Russians. They were still alive. Then you had the ghost of Kyiv, which was the Ukrainian fighter jet who was allegedly shooting down multiple Russian fighter jets. I mean, you had the Kinzingers and the Crenshaws of the world championing him as a pilot, and the origins of that traced back to a video game. A lot of that was a digital combat simulator, which was first shared on YouTube. So it was fake, and it was reported as fact. Now, I'm not saying everything coming out of the Israel-Hamas terrorist attack is fake. I'm just saying when emotions are riding high, we need to temper ourselves and say, okay, where is this news coming from? How has it been authenticated? Who authenticated it? And when? I think that's very important. And Donald Trump Jr. actually proved this last night. He really did. If you go over to Donald Trump Jr.'s Twitter account, I'll do it with you. You go to the search tab, you type in Don, he pops up. He's the second one. He's under his dad, Don Trump Jr. He tweets out last night a video. Says, you don't negotiate with this. There's only one way to handle this. Video from source within Israel. And then the video it's a bloody scene. And it seems like there's an Arabic terrorist. People are shouting in Arabic and shooting victims that are lying on the floor. Terrible. Awful. In fact, I don't recommend that you watch the video. But the fact of the matter is, Don Jr. said that this came from within a source within Israel. But the video is not from Israel. The video is from 2015 in Syria. And this is how emotional manipulation works. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that Donald Trump Jr. is lying to get us into war. But somebody sent that video to him and said it was from within Israel, if we accept it on face value. And then my head goes to, well, who sent him that video? Was it a sales rep for Raytheon? You have to get public support behind these wars. You just have to. I mean, there was public support behind the Ukraine conflict at first. That fell off a cliff, and look where we are now. Most Americans don't want to send $1 to Ukraine. And can you blame them? But we were lied into that conflict. And while what we're seeing out of Israel, Hamas, that terror attack, far different than the Ukraine-Russia conflict, far different. Just on its merits, very different. It feels to me like you're seeing a lot of this same emotional manipulation. Now, with Don Jr. tweeting out a video from Syria in 2015, I'm not sure who sent him the video. I'm not sure that he did a lot of fact checking on it. I would almost argue there's no way he could have done fact checking on it. And maybe he watched the video and something pulled on his heart and said, you know what? I have to share this with people. This is terrible. And while the video is terrible, it's not from within Israel. It was from Syria, 2015. And that's how easily people can be emotionally manipulated in these scenarios. So for me, I'm still waiting for extraordinary proof on 40 babies being beheaded. It's an extraordinary claim. And again, I understand that children have been killed. I understand that Hamas is a terrorist group, and I understand Israel is going to just do what needs to be done. And I'm okay with that. I'm not arguing that they shouldn't. I'm just saying we all need to be very aware of these news stories as they come out and ask yourself, why is this being released? Who released it? Who confirmed it? And do your own research. Do your own research. That's the moral of the story. Had Don Jr. talked to some of his advisors, done some research before he posted that tweet, maybe he wouldn't have posted it. Because again, Don Jr., it seems like he got emotionally manipulated, says something happened here in Israel, and it was from 2015 in Syria. That's how quickly it can happen. It's like a game of telephone, you know? And it seems to get worse and worse and worse. 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. This is the Chris Hand Show. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Israel at war, continuing coverage. There are talks underway for creating safe passage out of Gaza. We'll tell you about it coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 9:26. My name is Chris Hand. It took me, 21 minutes and I pissed off half the audience?
Yeah, maybe less. That's your new record.
I mean, listen, a lot of people are pushing back on me on this baby story, and I just say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I get texts like, hey, have you watched any of the beheading videos from Iraq, Afghanistan? It happened. I will never be the same after watching one. It's not too far for the imagination to travel that a child will die this way at the hands of Hamas. And I replied, I have seen those videos. This is to our friend Mike. I have seen those videos. But without actual evidence of this happening, it's only imagination right now. And it's just, I think that we can't be doing this game of telephone to make people that are already viewed as evil more evil. Like, there's so much that is provable that Hamas has done that we can all agree that they're bad guys. But it seems like this is an extraordinary claim. Just me. Jerry in Columbia, what do you think? You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, Chris?
Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Hey, sorry, I didn't know I was on the air. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. In fact, I just wanted to point out something about that happened a couple years back. If you remember Jesse Smollett,
Yep.
and the way the media, particularly Geraldo Rivera, jumped right on there and was just going nuts about it the night it happened. And then without waiting for the facts to come in, because the whole story seemed ridiculous to begin with, and it comes out that it was a fake and a hoax. And then he had to backpedal and say, well, he had us all fooled. No, he didn't have everyone fooled. The media was fooled because that's what they use to get ratings and whatnot. Now, I don't know what happened over there. No one knows unless you were there. But what we can see in the videos, like you said, it's bad enough. So why just exaggerate it more just to create more, stir up more animosity and run us into World War III,
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Jerry. I appreciate it. I think you're spot on. It's just, like, why do we believe the media when they say what we want to hear? Like, it seems like people want this to be true. I don't want it to be true. I hope it's not. And I'm not saying that kids haven't been injured over there. Kids haven't been killed. But I get a text from 5889. Hey, Chris, don't spend too much time on this baby's report. That's something they would truly do. And whether the story is true or not, I'm sure they have done it and will continue to behead adults and babies. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time on proving it or not. I think the truth matters. I will spend time on this. I will push back against these reports. And it seems like all the confirmation has just been circular at best. More of your calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$9:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. In a moment, we'll tell you how much more warm-up we're going to get before changes come and cool us down. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Continuing coverage, Israel at war. The U.S. says talks between Israel and Egypt are underway about creating safe passage for some residents to leave Gaza. And the Federal Trade Commission is taking action in this country that Biden administration says could save consumers millions of dollars in hidden costs. A proposed junk fee rule would eliminate unnecessary charges for things like concert tickets, hotels, apartment rentals. Any company that continues to charge these hidden add-on fees would be fined and then forced to give consumers their money back. And in this country, not good news about the prices you're paying. U.S. wholesale inflation heated up last month for a third consecutive month. The price for goods before they reached store shelves rose 2.2% for the year in September. Economists expected an increase of only 1.6%. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence, and we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation. I have one word: don't. Don't. Don't.
Oh, gosh.
Don't.
I'm serious.
Don't. Don't. Don't.
Good morning. How are you? Hey, got a quick question for you. And I've been pondering on this a couple of days, and I've had some of my military buddies as well. What do you feel, or how do you feel about with everything going on between Israel and Hamas about sleeper cells here in America, that if we do go to war, it will land on our ground, and how Biden would handle it? Right. And do you think we'll see an influx on refugees trying to come from Israel to America now? Uh, right. I just worry. I just wor- Go ahead. I just worry about sleeper cells here, and with our current commander in chief, how the whole situation will be handled.
Don't.
Don't. That went over like a lead fart to him, didn't
Don't.
it?
He's alienating all the leftists that are pro-Palestine, and there are a lot of leftists that are pro-Palestine. And to that last caller's point about sleeper cells, like, yes, of course we're going to see that. I mean, Dearborn, Michigan is one of the it's the most predominantly Muslim city in the entire country. And last night they're having a pro-Palestine rally in Dearborn, waving the flags, cheering, just going absolute bananas over Palestine and Hamas.
So don't let them get it twisted. This is not complicated. When you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags. When you go to a white supremacy rally, you see Israeli flags.
So I don't know. They don't make much sense on that side. Mac, you ever been to a white supremacy rally and see an Israel flag?
No.
Well, is it because you've never been to a white supremacy rally?
Yeah, that's really the main.
So we can't confirm or deny since neither of us have been to a white supremacy rally. But I mean, this is who we're dealing with. They're in Dearborn, Michigan, and they're at a Palestine celebration rally.
This is not complicated. When Zionists march down the street, they say death to Arabs. When we march down the street, we say free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. This is not difficult, everybody.
So, I mean, there's definitely the possibility that sleeper cells are in this country. That being said, we have a wide open border. And this is serious, People are sneaking into this country. Terror watch list suspects are sneaking into this country. And the ones that they catch, the number is always going to be bigger. It's always going to be bigger.
The terror watch list numbers have been shooting through the roof. Take a look at this graphic. In fiscal year 2023 so far, Border Patrol has arrested at least 151 people on the FBI's terror watch list. That is the highest number ever recorded. It's also higher than the last 6 years combined, and that is a huge concern when you talk about the known gotaways. If we can pull this graphic up here, CBP sources telling us since President Biden first came into office, there have been well over 1.5 million known gotaways who have slipped into our country without capture. Those are people they see on cameras or sensors, but Border Patrol just doesn't have the manpower to go out there and apprehend them. And just to put that number in perspective for you, that's a population size bigger than the city of Dallas, Texas, sneaking into our country without capture.
So 1.5 million known gotaways, 70,000 illegal aliens in the last 2 years from predominantly Muslim countries. Yeah, I think we're going to have some sleeper cells. I do. I don't think there's any way around that. It's crazy. I do think as conservatives, we should be using this moment in time to advance Second Amendment rights. And I think that, like Democrats, they never let a crisis go to waste, right? I think that we should take a page out of their book and advance Second Amendment rights, push for citizens to be more armed, and push for more training and getting people more comfortable with the idea of guns in this country. And I think that it's time to use a page out of their playbook. I know a lot of people carry. I carry. And it makes sense. You have to be able to protect your family. I tend to think that the music festival that was attacked by Hamas would have been a lot different if, 50% of them were carrying. Don't you? I think that this is an absolute opportunity to push the Second Amendment, and I think we should. I also have seen a lot of people going at Rashida Tlaib for having a Palestinian flag on her office door, and I'm reminded of a story my uncle said to me. He said, he was always a fan of people wearing Nazi armbands. And I would say, why? And he'd say, because then you can spot the Nazi. He's like, if they don't have an armband on, you can't spot them. So when somebody like Rashida Tlaib has a Palestinian flag on her office door, I don't want her to put it away. I think that's good for us to know. And I'm fine with that. You want to support that side. You want to be, basically holding water for Hamas. That's fine. At least you're telling us. and we won't be surprised later. Rashida Tlaib was also confronted about the baby story outside of her office. She was basically chased down a hallway and asked again and again if she would condemn it.
Terrorists have cut off babies' heads and burned children alive. Do you support Israel's rights to defend themselves against this brutality?
We're just going to go through here.
You can't comment about Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads?
I mean, she's hitting the boot leather express trying to get out of there.
Congresswoman, do you have a comment on Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads? You have nothing to say about Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads?
She had nothing to say. Of course not. I mean, there's no defending that. But I do go back to the 40 babies, and I just think extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I think there's absolute evidence and extraordinary evidence of Hamas being brutal, being barbaric, and the fact that Israel has every right to go in there and defend themselves. 100%. I've never not said that, and I never won't say that. My pushback is on the media that we know that lies, basically circular reporting a story and confirming via confirmation that it doesn't feel like it has legs to me. Even with the baby story, that the reporter basically pulled back. Yesterday she tweeted, "Soldiers told me they believe 40 babies' children were killed. The exact death toll is unknown as the military continues to go house to house." Now, I'm not saying that no children were killed. I'm just saying that there's enough extremism that happened that if we don't have the evidence for it, we don't need to make extraordinary claims. I think we can all agree what happened was wrong, downright evil, and that we don't need to jump the shark and do sensationalism without the proof. I mean, and there was a lot of pushback. It's interesting. It's interesting to see the Conservative Party right now. Really, people were divided over the speaker race. I think people are even more so divided right now. Because while everybody supports Israel's right to defend themselves, there's definitely two groups of people. There's a wait-and-see group, and there's a let's go kick the door in and turn Gaza into a parking lot crowd. And I don't want to advocate for more war. I don't. I definitely don't want to advocate for the U.S. getting involved, which seems like no matter how much we kick and scream about that, we are going to be getting involved in this conflict one way or another. There's already rumors that Biden will be tying Ukraine aid to Israel aid. It's interesting. More on these stories and more calls from you next. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Got some crashes need to tell you about. 65 southbound right before Trinity Lane. You got the left shoulder blocked, and then road work is blocking the way. 65 southbound, right lane blocked. That is going to be right there at Rosa Parks Boulevard. Israel at war. What is next from the Biden administration? There's a new rule to crack down on junk fees being closer on the books. House Speaker race heating up. And so is inflation on the stuff you buy before it gets to stores. These stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. And yes, junk fees. The world is burning, but I won't be charged $3 on my StubHub account.
That's right.
Thank you, Joe Biden. You know what he says to people that are charging junk fees?
Don't.
That's what he says. He's got one word.
Don't.
All right. Over in Israel, American citizens are trying to leave. And Biden Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner advises Americans who are trying to get out to take commercial flights, even though all American carriers and most international carriers have suspended their flights at the airport in Israel. But still, it gives me flashbacks to Afghanistan. Oh, just get a flight. You'll be all right. You'll be cool.
Has the State Department been involved in helping Americans who want to leave Israel to leave Israel? Has that been necessary?
Our understanding is that the civilian airport in Israel remains functional, remains operating. There are commercial flights still going in and out of Israel at the moment, that some carriers have suspended those operations, which we believe is making it somewhat difficult in some cases for Americans and others to secure tickets on outbound flights. And so the State Department is going to continue working with American citizens to help make sure that they know all of the options that are available.
Yeah, you know all the options that are available. You're on your own. Spoiler alert. 9:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Ken Weaver right now with the headlines on Super Talk.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Israel at war, continuing coverage. Celine Wang is in Washington with action the Biden administration is considering.
The president and his national security team are working around the clock to rush military aid to Israel and prevent this from turning into a broader war. Officials tell us that the Pentagon is considering deploying a second aircraft carrier towards the region. That is meant to deter Iran, Hezbollah, and others who are hostile to Israel from exploiting this crisis.
Now, the first plane carrying ammunition from the U.S. since Hamas launched their attacks on Israel starting this war. That plane carrying ammunition from the U.S. landed yesterday. Right now in America, the Biden administration says the Federal Trade Commission has the authority to move forward with a rule to get rid of junk fees across many industries, including concert tickets, hotels, apartment rentals. If it goes into effect, companies that continue to charge these fees could face fines and be forced to pay back consumers. There's a 60-day public comment period before anything happens. House Republicans begin closed-door deliberations today over whom to nominate for Speaker. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
The first question for Republicans to answer behind closed doors is whether to raise the bar for nominating a Speaker, from a majority of the conference to near unanimity. Nebraska Republican Don Bacon says that's the better choice to prevent multiple ballots on the House floor.
Doing 15 votes like we did in January was not wise, and we look bad.
Until the results of a secret ballot are revealed, it's not clear who has more support. Majority Leader Steve Scalise or Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan.
Yeah, both men met with their party last night, making their final pitches, answering questions. Inflation news, the price for goods before they get to the store shelves is going up more than economists predicted. U.S. wholesale inflation rose 2.2% for the year in September, a third consecutive month of increases. Economists expected an increase of only 1.6%. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Paul Winkler, Inc. Now, I got 4 wonderful kids. Me and my wife, we needed a financial plan to secure their future and ours. And because we linked up with Paul and his team, we have one now. Now, because Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required, I'm required to tell you via government regulators that I get paid every time this commercial airs. It's the truth. I do. But it's because I got to sit down with Paul, have some lunch with him, break bread, have my questions answered in a way that I could understand, that I decided to become a client myself. Now, with Paul and his team, I say this all the time, but it means the most to me. Nothing is done on commission. And why that means a lot to me is because I know that they're not trying to help me make decisions for their family. They're trying to help me make decisions for my family. Plus, all of their investment education is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research, and the guys on Paul's team can break it down for me in a way that I can understand, and they can do the exact same thing for you. You can definitely feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest because the experience that they have equals confidence, and every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950. .05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We were talking about earlier the story coming out of Israel of 40 babies being beheaded. And I got a text from 0097, our friend Debbie. She said, "What kind of proof do you want, Hand? Pictures of babies' heads?" And no, I don't really want that. But we haven't had any official confirmation from the Army. We've had one reporter who seems to be walking it back on Twitter. And it seems like a bunch of circular confirmation and circular reporting from everybody else. It all links back to that I-24 report. And if you look at that reporter's Twitter account, she seems to be kind of walking it back slowly. Am I the only one that's following this story to its origin? I mean, the reporter tweeted yesterday, "Soldiers told me they believe 40 babies' children were killed. The exact death toll is still unknown as the military continues to go house to house." Now, did children die? I'm 100% certain that happened. Is it a travesty? Yep, it is. Should Israel go in there and do everything that needs to be done? 100%. But to me, it feels like this emotional manipulation happens at the beginning of every conflict. And we have mountains of evidence that support my theory. I mean, we can look back as recent as Ukraine with the ghost of Kyiv. You know, the mythical flying ace that was shooting down Russian planes over Kyiv during the Kyiv offensive in February of 22. Multiple outlets ran with that as truth. It was fake. The New York Times has this on the Ukraine propaganda, and I know it's the failing New York Times, but what it says kind of makes a lot of sense to me, at least. The New York Times wrote, "Narratives have continued as the war marches on, revealing the contours of an information war aimed not just at Western audiences, but also at Russian citizens." And it's the truth. We are in the middle of an information war. At the United Nations on Monday, Ukrainian ambassador shared a series of text messages that he said had been retrieved from the phone of a dead Russian soldier. The text messages read, "Mama, I'm in Ukraine. There's a real war raging here. I'm afraid." That's what the Russian soldier apparently wrote, according to the ambassador's account, which he read in Russian. Now, the tale seemed to evoke a narrative advanced by officials and shared extensively on social media that Russian soldiers are poorly trained and too young and don't want to be fighting Ukrainian neighbors. "We are bombing all of the cities together, even targeting civilians," the text messages allegedly read. And the story, whether true or not, the New York Times says, appears tailor-made for Russian civilians, particularly parents fretting over the fate of their enlisted children, experts said. This is an age-old tactic that the Ukrainians are trying to use, and that is to draw the attention of the mothers and the families in Russia away from more grandiose aims for war onto instead the human costs of war. That was Ian Garner, a historian focusing on Russia, who has followed Russian language propaganda during the conflict. We know that this is really effective. So I just urge you, when you hear a story coming out, that you need to take it with a grain of salt. Could it be true? Yes, it absolutely could be true. I pray it's not. I don't want any children to be beheaded. And I know that children are going to lose their lives on both sides of this conflict. I mean, as Israel goes into Gaza, we are absolutely going to see some civilian casualties. And then you're absolutely going to see propaganda from that side as well. There's just no getting around it. That being said, I do want to see some more evidence, Debbie. I do. I feel like evidence is a good thing. Is that still a thing? Is evidence still a thing? Got a text from 7204. WMDs in Iraq. Yeah. And I played the audio earlier of the Kuwaiti volunteer who got us into the Gulf War with her testimony that Iraqi soldiers were taking babies out of incubators and leaving them on the cold floor to die.
They took the babies out of the incubators, took the incubators, and left the children to die on the cold floor.
It was a lie. That was a lie. It was a lie. And I'm sorry that I can look back at recent history and see that propaganda has gotten us into wartime conflicts before and want more evidence. I'm sorry. But I'm not going to take things at face value from either side. We all agree that the media lies. We all agree that our government lies, unless we agree with them, and then we just accept everything as truth. I'm not with that. I highlighted earlier in the show, Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out a video last night that he says he got from an insider within Israel. Well, the video that he tweeted out was actually from Syria in 2015. It showed a bloodbath, and it's emotional, and it at first glance you go, these monsters, and then you realize it's not even from the same country. So was Donald Trump Jr. emotionally manipulated? Probably. I wonder who sent him that. And I think there's enough to this conflict and enough to this terrorist attack that you can look at it at face value and tell people the truth. I think if you just are honest with people, people are going to support Israel. If you just explain what happened, people will support Israel. Is that just me? But again, I don't want our tax dollars going over there. I don't want our tax dollars going to another forever war. And I certainly don't want to go down the route that Lindsey Graham wants us to go, which he was on, what was it, Hannity last night? It was Hannity or the show right after, Trey Gallagher. I forget. I was doing show prep. But the man is just absolutely trying to sell a war with Iran. Like, no, I don't want that. We can barely arm Ukraine. We're going to get ourselves into another conflict? How about no? Can we secure our border first? Can we please? I mean, we have actual terrorists from the terror watch list being apprehended coming across our border. We had 151 last year, 98 the year before. And we know they're coming, and we do nothing about it. We do nothing. I am far more worried about sleeper cells here in America than what's happening in the Middle East right now. I feel like Israel can handle themselves, and I'm worried about how vulnerable we are here in America. I'm not the only one that thinks this way either. Judge Janine was on the 5 yesterday, and she echoed the exact same thing.
They can be anywhere, and we're not going to track them because we don't. I mean, we let them in. I think it was in 2021, as you said, 99% of the migrants who came in are staying in the United States, and that's 2 million people. 99%. Now let's talk about Hamas. If anybody thinks that Hamas is not already in this country, I think they're naive, because when you think about it, that what happened in Israel is about the extinction of the Jewish race. It's not about territory. And if Hamas hates Jews, you know that they're in this country as well. And what the Biden administration has done is he has allowed a wholesale entrance. He's made this country nothing more than a global landing spot with benefits.
Nothing but a global landing spot with benefits. And she's absolutely right. Hamas is definitely in this country. This is them in Dearborn, Michigan at a rally last night.
So don't let them get it twisted. This is not complicated. When you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags.
I mean, and they're cheering everything on. They're absolutely here. Are you not more worried about what's going to happen in our country? And then if we get ourselves tied up in another war overseas, does that not leave us more vulnerable for these sleeper cell attacks? Absolutely. Absolutely it does.
No questions, no DNA, no nothing. And even if they do tell you you have to go to court, you don't have to go for another 6 or 7 years. Right. I mean, we look like fools on the world stage.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Michael Waltz, congressman, indicated that there's a history of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps working with the Mexican drug cartels to enter through our open border. So and think about it.
Hamas and drug cartels. Does that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside? That's actually actively happening right now. Can be proven. That can be proven. We don't talk about it at all, but it can be proven.
Israel is the little Satan. We are the great Satan. We are inextricably tied to Israel, and we have allowed Hamas to come into this country along with all kinds of people. 1.5 million getaways. We don't even know who they are. Right.
We don't know who they are, but we know they're here. And I would argue that the number is far greater than anybody is letting on to us. Far greater. I feel like we used to be a proper country. We used to actually care about our border, but no longer do we. We're far more concerned with other countries' borders. And I'm not a fan of it. I'm just not. And then you see reports that the Biden administration is considering tying Ukraine funding to Israel aid request. Because everybody's so gung-ho to help out Israel that they're going to use that as an opportunity to fund Ukraine as well. This is from the Daily Caller. The White House is considering tying more Ukraine funding to a request for a crucial aid package to Israel in a bid to get Congress back on board with support for Ukraine. Yeah, still not supporting Ukraine. The Biden administration has sent over $75 billion to Kyiv since the beginning of Ukraine's war against Russia in February of 22. Biden announced last week that he would give a major speech on the importance of support for Ukraine after Congress denied his request for additional aid. It's just too much. It's just too much. We need to focus on our problems here at home. Think about what we could do to secure our border with $75 billion. Andrew in Murfreesboro, you're offering a Christian perspective. Andrew, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, what's up, Chris? I'm loving the show, man. I'm loving your opinions rooted in truth. And I just wanted to speak about what it takes to change Americans. And so many callers call in saying, you know, what are we going to do about this? When are we going to do something? And the human condition goes like this. Change rarely occurs until the pain of change exceeds the fear of change. And like 9/11, there was a lot of change in the American spirit, right? Mm-hmm. It took something terrible to happen to the Americans to actually wake up and change. And I don't want something terrible to happen, but yet the human condition is like that. And something bad has to happen before the people who got their head in the sand will actually look at the truth and see that we as conservatives are not wrong. We're just rooted in truth. And it takes something really terrible, like maybe our economy failing because of our giving so much money out of a debit account that doesn't have any dollars in it, to actually bring people back together. What do you say?
I mean, we definitely have to bring people back together. To your point about 9/11, sometimes I feel like we're in a post 9/11 atmosphere right now. The way they sell this as Israel's 9/11, and it feels like everybody's just out for blood at the moment. And I just want to be patient and wait for all the info, and also give Israel the leeway to do what they feel like needs to be done. I don't think that they should be punished for going in there and defending themselves. And I'm not against them going in there and defending themselves, but I don't want to get involved.
I agree. I don't think we need to. And like so many other callers have said, we don't need to go help a neighbor unless they've asked us for help.
Well, and I think
we don't need to be involved.
And that's a big takeaway. They haven't asked for our help. And I don't think that they're going to. But we'll see. It does seem like we're gearing up to send them more aid and more money. So who knows? Who knows where this ends up? And as soon as other countries start jumping in and getting involved, then it's going to be an absolute different story.
Right. I agree. Hey, thanks again.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you listening. Thanks so much. More of your calls next, and getting to some of your text messages at 615-737-9986. I got a text from a friend of ours, doesn't want to be named. He said, dude, if you ever served in a war zone, you would understand sometimes it is impossible to get you a photo or video of what is happening. It is not a priority, and we actually do not care proving anyone anything at that moment. Survival and carrying on the mission is our most important priority, and not providing live proof to some stupid reporter or politician. If they want proof, they can come in the war zone with us and try to keep up. We had to babysit some soy boy reporters in Iraq. They get in the way and even get killed for their stupidity. I mean, listen, I understand that. Obviously, it's in reference to the babies being beheaded story. I just think, and I'll say it again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And I feel like emotional manipulation is at an all-time high. And I just think that we need to be on guard for it. Could it be true? Yes, it absolutely, the story could absolutely be true. I just want some extraordinary proof, not circular reporting and confirmation that traces back to an Israeli TV station, one reporter who seems to be walking back her comments on Twitter. That's me. Just me. 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Talks are underway to give safe passage for some out of Gaza as Israel continues pounding Hamas. This story and more stories at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I got a text from 4200. Said, straw man argument again. Just because we need to do one thing does not mean we can't do another at the same time. Protecting Israel from outside threats while they deal with Hamas, Hezbollah is a no-brainer. Grow some balls and discuss honestly. To which I said, hey, feel free to call in. I'd love to discuss this with you. And I would. But to me, not getting involved is a no-brainer. If we get involved, then Iran gets involved, then Russia gets involved, then China's involved, then we got full-blown World War III. And if full-blown World War III happens, where's our medicine made? China. Where's all the electronics made? China. We're in no position to fight World War III, and I worry that this conflict could escalate all the way up there. That's just me. Personally, I don't know. He says he can't call. Well,
no.
If you can call later, 4200, you are always welcome.
Do it.
And again, I don't want the show to ever be an echo chamber. I want differing opinions, counterpoints, arguments, discussion, however you want to say it. You're absolutely allowed to jump in. 615-737-9986. JB texted, said, where did COVID come from? China.
Good question, JB. Exactly
Great.
right.
We bring the hard-hitting questions here.
2785 says, the baby story may or may not be true. That's neither here nor there for me. The fact that those animals are capable of such atrocities is all I need to want them dead.
I'm not, listen, I get where people are at on going and, absolutely breaking Hamas. I'm not against that.
Of course.
That's understandable. But we have to hold the media accountable, even if they say something that we want to believe is true. Like, it seems like people want this story to be true. I don't want it to be true. Maybe it's my own bias because I have young kids. I'm like, it just seems too awful that I don't want this story to be true. But the more I dig on it, the more it seems like emotional propaganda. That doesn't mean that kids haven't died. That doesn't mean that Hamas is a good guy. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying this feels like emotional propaganda to me. I mean, is that a stretch? Does it feel like emotional propaganda to you? 615-737-9986. Somebody said watch Ben Shapiro on the videos he shared. So sad. Israel can handle it. I mean, it is sad. I've seen some of the stuff Ben has shared. But again, I agree with you. Israel can handle it. They are more than capable and strong.
And they have not asked for help.
Literally
not asked.
But Biden wants to, according to the Daily Caller, wants to tie Israel aid to Ukraine funding. So we're going to be funding two wars.
Speaking of Biden, 4402 said, dude, I want to call so bad and tell you why Joe Biden's the best to ever do it, but you're scared to have that conversation. So I said, please call in.
Yo, listen, man. You want to call in and have that conversation? I got one word for you.
Don't.
Oh, jeez.
I told him, come on.
Why not?
Let's do it.
Let's have those hard
I'm
conversations.
ready.
Ken Weaver's not afraid of those hard conversations. And he's got the news for you right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
10:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. In 2 minutes, we'll have a conversation about how warm it's going to get before the next cool down during the full forecast. Continuing coverage, Israel at war after Hamas carried out a surprise attack over the weekend. The U.S. says talks underway between Israel and Egypt about creating safe passage for some people to leave Gaza, which has been under heavy Israeli bombardment in response. And right now in our nation's capital, GOP lawmakers will be holding another closed-door session today to see if they can iron out who will succeed Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. And in Middle Tennessee, a former middle school counselor for Rutherford County faces 11 charges of sending child sexual abuse material online. Authorities say they started investigating an account in September that led them to Daniel Gregory as the account's user. Gregory was a counselor at Siegel Middle School. He was booked into jail on a $950,000 bond. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
I'm guilty of it. I turned on my AC last night after having my heat on the morning before. It's that time of the year where the temperature gets a little schizophrenic, a little bipolar, up and down, up and down. And if you don't have your HVAC in good working order, you can't be flipping back and forth the way I am. And if your HVAC isn't in good working order, you got to call Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. Hey, it's Chris Hand for Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, it can be so hard to find somebody you trust with these home repairs for your HVAC unit. And it's because sometimes you feel pressured to replace your unit, and sometimes you are. because those bigger companies are happy to pressure you to replace that unit because they make more money that way. Well, Jeff Eddy and his crew, they're not going to do that to you. Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling is a small company with big service and even bigger results. I trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right because they prove it. And if you're trying to make that decision to repair or replace your system, even if you've already had somebody else tell you you got to repair it or you got to replace it, call Jeff for a second opinion. Him and his crew will walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make an informed decision. So if that means just replacing a part, they'll do that for you. If it means replacing your entire unit, they'll help you with that as well. And with Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424.
Any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1036. My name is Chris Hand. Got a lot of texts coming in. I apologize if I haven't gotten back to your text messages yet. We're sitting on a couple bills.
Yeah, seriously.
But, I've invited a few people that have pushed back on me to call in and have the conversation on the air. I'm totally fine to have these conversations on the air. If you don't agree with the things I say, I am absolutely 100% in to talk to you about it. Not afraid of the dialogue. I got a text from somebody. It says Bloomberg. Let me see this. Did you see that text, Mac?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it says Bloomberg apologized this morning for tweeting the baby story. Will you fact check that for me?
On it.
My man. There is other things going on besides the baby story, though. It does feel like, to me, that is one of the biggest stories because I personally feel like it's emotional propaganda. And until I see extraordinary proof, I'm going to hold out that being confirmed. Sky News in Australia won't confirm the story. It seems like everybody that has confirmed the story are confirming it based on the one reporter who got a statement from a soldier, and they ran on I-24 TV in Israel. And it may be true. I pray it's not, but it may be true. But until I see more confirmation that's not just circular, I'm going to hold out on confirming that. They'll run that story and confirm it, but our national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, can't even confirm how many American citizens have been kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. So that's the fog of war. We honestly don't know what's happening on the ground. So a lot of these things are just circle reporting. But National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was asked about Americans who have been kidnapped by Hamas, and this was his answer.
On the American hostages, can you first of all tell us how many? Are we talking about several or a dozen hostages? And do you know anything about their condition at all?
We do not know about their condition, and we cannot confirm a precise number of American citizens. We believe that there are 20 or more Americans who at this point are missing, but I want to underscore and stress that does not mean necessarily that there are 20 or more American hostages. Just that is the number who are currently unaccounted for. We will work hour by hour both to determine whether we can account for any of those Americans or to confirm exactly what the number of Americans are being held hostage, and we will come back to you with that information as soon as we have it.
So they don't know how many Americans have been kidnapped. They have no idea. In fact, they won't even confirm if Iran was involved. And now we all have our own feelings about Iran. I tend to lean that Iran probably was involved in some shape or form. That one to me isn't as much of a bridge too far. But Jake Sullivan was asked about it, and he says there's no confirmation that Iran knew about it.
As to the question of whether Iran knew about this attack in advance or helped plan or direct this attack, we do not, as of the moment I'm standing here at the podium, have confirmation of that. We are talking to our Israeli counterparts on a daily basis about this question. We're looking back through our intelligence holdings to see if we have any further information on that. We're looking to acquire further intelligence. And if there's an update to that, I'll share it with you. But as I stand here today, while Iran plays this broad role, sustained, deep, and dark role in providing all of this support and capabilities to Hamas in terms of this particular gruesome attack on October 7th, we don't currently have that information. We will continue to look for it, and if we find it, we will share that with you.
So he can't really confirm. It just seems wild. Seems wild. So you said, Mac, you put it in my ear. Somebody had texted us about Bloomberg saying that they apologized for tweeting the baby story. Was that true?
Yeah, we've got audio from the report if you want to hear what they said exactly.
Yeah, send it.
We're still trying to get clarity on so many different things. The number of civilians, the number of people missing, particularly from America, their questions being asked of this president. How many are still being held hostage? I have to say that in an interview earlier on today, a reference was made by a Bloomberg anchor to the alleged mutilation of babies, which is an absolutely shocking story. We should make it clear that these are unsubstantiated reports, and we apologize for that error, but seeking clarity on some of these reports is a big, big deal for us over the next few days.
Hey, listen, at least they owned it. These are unsubstantiated reports. Bloomberg is going on record apologizing for unsubstantiated reports. That's why I love the super text line.
Seriously.
That's something that we missed, but because of you guys on the text line, we have it. So thank you for crowdsourcing that information for us. That was our friend, 9858, our friend Dan. Thank you so much. Anytime you want to help us crowdsource some info, 615-737-9986. My guy Steve on line 1, you got a comment on World War III. What's up, Steve?
Hey, I just was going to say, the people that, and appreciate you for having me on, the
Absolutely.
people that are wanting to get involved in this thing and getting our troops on the ground over there and escalating this way beyond what it needs, Israel doesn't need our help. They have 300,000 mobilized troops. They're going to go in there and wipe the floor with Hamas.
Totally agree.
It's not going to be a long fight. But the folks wanting to get us involved in this are the same ones that as soon as it starts, will go run and hide in their basement and will not have anything to do with it. And that, it's the same folks that if the medicine starts coming in, if our power grid starts getting screwed with and, chaos erupts, they'll be the first ones that die. You don't want to get involved in this unless it's absolutely necessary. And it's not necessary right now.
No, I totally agree. And thanks for the call, Steve. Really appreciate you chiming in. And I appreciate all you guys on the super text line as well. No, if they're not asking for help, why are we going to ratchet this thing up? That Bloomberg report is interesting. I was saying that reporter seemed to be walking her comments back, and then for Bloomberg to come out and say that's unsubstantiated reporting.
Yeah, 2862 says, so the baby story was unsubstantiated? I'm so confused now.
Yeah. Weird.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it appeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's unsubstantiated. I got a text from 6436. Hilarious. You're going to believe a far-left Democrat-led news media. I guess it's okay to suit your narrative. I mean, guys, it was far-left media that was going and saying that this is all true as well. I didn't wait for Bloomberg to give you my opinion. 6436. I gave you my opinion on that before the Bloomberg came through. That was our friend Uncle Base Dan. Send that in on the super text line. I'm just saying we needed to wait until we got confirmation. It seems like that confirmation isn't coming. I pray it doesn't. I don't want that story to be real. I really don't. But it's interesting. It's absolutely interesting that Bloomberg is coming out and saying it's unsubstantiated. I think that we need to stay vigilant, especially with the reporting that has a emotional manipulation aspect to it. And anybody with kids is going to read that headline and feel a certain type of way. I know I did. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. 7672 said, true dat, Chris. You did not wait to give your opinion, and you were wise to wait and advise your listeners. It could be emotional propaganda. Truth is important. It is. Truth is very important. And it could still come out that this story does get substantiated down the line. But, 0911. Hard evidence from Bloomberg is what you're going with? I guess as long as it fits the narrative. What narrative am I trying to fit? My narrative has been, let's wait and see what happens. I'm not going to share something because Fox News shared it and MSNBC shared it. And all these outlets have confirmed it. The same outlets that have lied to us about other media. I was waiting to see what comes of that news. I don't know. Jonathan in Hendersonville, you have a comment on our trash leadership. I'm all ears, Jonathan. You're on Super Talk. What's up?
Jonathan, yes, this is yeah. Chris, first of all, I want to thank you again for your wisdom way beyond your years. My biggest fear is, all these folks clamoring for war, but then we have leadership that's absolutely incompetent between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We really need to think about the first battle of ousting them from leadership before we even deal with the world situation, in my strong opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to be winning any battles with Joe as our commander-in-chief. And it scares the hell out of me how this conflict could escalate, and then what happens when China goes and takes Taiwan. I think that the best thing that we can do is be patient and not overreact to any of this stuff that comes out. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go help our allies. I'm not saying that down the road, should the information change, should we change our stance? I'm just saying that we should be patient. Let's take 10 days before we try to make something happen for something that may not be there. But hey, I appreciate your call, Jonathan, and I really thank you for checking in.
You kind of missed the point on the leadership, though, boss.
Well, with the leadership, our leadership is trash.
Yeah, the leadership is absolutely, like I say, we don't have anybody to lead us into, lead us in the right direction. That's my concern.
Yeah, but that's all the more reason to not get involved in these conflicts.
Absolutely. You take care and have a good one.
Hey, appreciate you. Steve in Murfreesboro, you have a comment on Israel. Steve, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Steve?
Hey, I just wanted to call in. I was thinking about this yesterday. I actually talked to one of the shows yesterday, but there's people with malicious intent in every country, every city, every state, every religion, in fact, every race. And knowing that, I was thinking about if George Soros just decided he didn't like pit bulls and he offered $100,000 for each one you brought to him, what's going to happen? Pit bulls are going to turn up missing all over the country.
No, you'd have underground pit bull breeding operations so that way people could bring them pit bulls.
That's exactly right. So what we did as a country happened to be on 9/11 of all days, but we gave Iran, $6.2 billion and got back 5 hostages. That's $1.2 billion per hostage. In my opinion, that's not a coincidence that Hamas went into Iran and took hostages from every nation. They're looking for a payday. I think our weak leadership just opened a hunting season on Americans throughout the world.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that was the message that they sent on September 11th. That was the message everybody said that they sent. And yeah, you're not off the mark at all. Thanks for the call, Steve. If you tell people that we're going to pay $1 billion per hostage, well, don't be shocked when more people become hostages. It's like gravity. If it goes up, it's coming down. Dave in Hendersonville, what's your thoughts on Israel? Dave, you're on Super Talk.
We do, Chris.
What's up, man?
Hey, this baby story. I hope it isn't true. I've got kids of my own. I got grandkids, and I sincerely hope it isn't true. But in a way, it already is true because we know that they kill babies.
Yeah, I mean,
was it 40? It may have not been, but they have been killing babies.
No, and
So in a sense,
and kids
it is.
Kids are going to die in this conflict. Kids died in the terrorist attack from Hamas. That there's no getting around that, and I'm not trying to whitewash that. I just think that the headline that everybody's running with seems to be a little bit sensationalist.
And you could be right on that. You know, I'm looking at what they've already done that we know they've done, and we know that they have already killed babies. So,
no, hey, yeah, there's no getting
would
around
I put it
that.
Past them? Yeah, would I put it past them? No. And as far as, you know, you made a comment earlier about the Second Amendment.
Yes, sir.
And you're absolutely right on that. You're absolutely right on that. And people in this country better wake up. I sent Mac a video a while ago. They're in this country.
Oh, without a doubt, you can see all the pro-Palestine support rallies that are happening. And thanks for the call, Dave. We do got to hit a break. You see those rallies happening all over the country right now. There's no doubt that we need to push the Second Amendment, get more citizens armed in this country because sleeper cells are definitely here. 100%. 100%. 1052 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Thanks for hanging out with us on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now, we're following multiple reports of sirens going off across northern Israel. In fact, the Jewish Chronicle is reporting that Israelis in northern Israel have been told to take shelter after reports of an infiltration. This infiltration described by some reports as drones coming over from Lebanon, or even some of those gliders that were carrying Hamas from the southern border. But either way, multiple reports now that alarms are going off in northern Israel and that Israelis there have been told to take shelter because there may be another front opening in this war. Israel at war continuing coverage. Hamas started it. Now Israel trying to end it, and Hamas. Ian Pannell is in Tel Aviv. He says Israel's air campaign into Gaza has cut off essentials like food, water, and electricity.
The U.S. says talks between Israel and Egypt about creating safe passage for some residents to leave are taking place. But the last remaining crossing out of Gaza was bombed by Israel yesterday. And for now, life inside Gaza is perilous.
Yeah, 2,000 people now confirmed dead in both Israel and Gaza after Hamas militants attacked dozens of Israeli border communities over the weekend. Got some breaking news back here in this country. It involves a former NFL player who was reported missing after his mother's body was found last month. Fox News says Sergio Brown was taken into custody yesterday in San Diego. Brown's mother was found dead almost a month ago near a creek in Illinois. And not so good news about the prices you're paying. U.S. wholesale inflation heated up last month for a third consecutive month. The price for goods before they reach store shelves rose 2.2% for the year in September. Economists expected an increase of only 1.6%. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
11:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for joining us on this, what day is it? It's Wednesday.
October 11th.
Yeah, baby. Feels like we've been covering the same stories for a few days now, and it's like everything just starts melting together. But luckily, we have you as part of our crew. Mac producing, Ken in the newsroom, and you guys on the super text line and the phone lines, the most important member of our crew. Murphy in Nashville, you have a comment on Iran. Murphy, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
So I got a possibility for you. They attack the Gaza Strip. They decimate the population, level the entire city. So while they got the main defense force over there from the Israelis, they drop a couple of dirty bombs in there, battlefield nukes, and there goes the Israelis, and they don't have any defense anymore. And you can see or just listen to the radio and hear that the front is changing. It's a multiple front now. So in my opinion, the time to act is now. We got a weak administration, and they think the whole country's weak, but the military is not weak.
But don't you feel like, well, there's already been reports that we can't really arm Ukraine, right? There's reports that if we get involved and Iran gets involved, Russia's in. If Russia's in, China's in. Don't you feel like that would escalate it up to World War III status?
Well, in my opinion, they're already all in. You don't think that Russia and China knows what Iran's doing right now? It's all to distract forces and divide forces. We're already in the beginnings of World War III.
We may be in
Talk
the
about
beginning.
Escalation. It's already been escalated. We didn't escalate it.
See, I think you're missing a big point, because if we get it escalated anymore, who's going to cut off our medicine? China. Who's going to cut off all of our tech? China. Like we
can't be held hostage by the very people that's doing this.
I'm just
And
saying.
that's all I gotta say about that. I'm ex-military. My whole family's ex-military.
Thanks for your service.
Friends that were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we can't bargain with these people, and we can't be afraid of what they're going to do to us. We got to do something to them and make them afraid of America again.
Well,
that's all I got to say.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
don't hang up. Don't hang up. First, I want to say thank you for your service. Secondly, he hung up.
He hung up. You said don't, and he. Oh.
I just want to know what people's thoughts are. Like, yes, I agree that people should be afraid of America and we should be a beacon of strength. I just feel like our leadership is absolutely weak, spineless, and nobody's taking into account the fact that if we do get into World War III, China can just shut us off. No more stuff at Walmart. No more medicine. Do you remember how crazy this country went over toilet paper just a couple years ago?
Oh my gosh, yes. That was nuts.
People have such short memories. The world went insane over toilet paper. What happens if it's Tylenol?
Baby formula.
Baby formula. Just you're going right down the land of unintended consequences. Oh, what was it? Oh, I missed it. Somebody said something. Oh, yeah, don't forget OPEC. Oil from OPEC. Yep. 6436 says, I'm glad that caller is calling out your pacifism. Pacificism.
Pacifism?
Pacificism? It's calling me a pacifist. I just don't know if we're in a position of strength right now. If we had Trump in the office, I'd be much more confident about our position in the world. But I can't be confident with who we have in the White House right now. Don in Clarksville, you have a comment on Israel and Ukraine. Don, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I just had a quick question/comment. We've been watching the coverage in Israel 24/7. Live, real-time coverage of everything going on over there. My question is, where is the coverage in Ukraine? Where are the correspondents? Where is the footage of the bombs going off? Is there truly a war over there, or is there a great big laundromat that all of our money is going into?
I know there's a great big laundromat. I know that for sure. Yes, I do believe there's a war going over there. Yes, it doesn't get the coverage that it deserves. Why? I can't answer that for you. But is it a laundromat? Yes, it is absolutely a laundromat. You hit the nail on the head there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the call, Don. It's crazy. Tucker, on his interview with Vivek Ramaswamy that came out yesterday, I believe, he brings up, how we see this moral outrage to these videos and these reports coming out of Israel, to the last caller's point. Yet we have those videos here in America every day, and we don't do anything to fix our own country.
I got to say, you mentioned moral outrage, and I thought the videos from southern Israel were morally outrageous, and I was offended by them and saddened by them. Anyone who saw them, I think, was. But you don't have to look far in the United States for moral outrages also on video. And there's not a city in this country, not just the big cities, but cities of 10,000 people. I was in one yesterday, that doesn't have some constellation of drug-addicted young people living outside. We call them the homeless. They're drug addicts. Mm-hmm. And they're addicted to drugs that were imported across an open border, allowed by the Biden administration. And they're dying, more than 100,000 a year. Now, you could call it genocide. You can call it whatever you want, but it's the death of over 100,000 Americans a year and the living death of millions more who are living outside.
I love that point about, we're watching the living death of millions of Americans who are sitting outside. If you've ever met somebody that's dealing with addiction, it feels like you're mourning the living. But he's right. We get morally outraged by these reports coming from outside the country, but we see these videos in our country every single day.
So sure. I don't understand. People are outraged by what happened in Israel. And again, I want to add my voice to that because I'm a human being. But the scale of the outrage among Republican presidential candidates was so much more intense. One of them took to a bullhorn and started yelling about it. I get it. But no one would think to do that about the 100,000 American young people murdered every year. And they are murdered, honestly, by
give me a bullhorn for that one.
Like,
Chuck.
what?
He's absolutely right. The moral outrage is really just about what the news media tells us to be morally outraged about. I talked a couple days ago about the missing kids in this country. There's no moral outrage. The moral outrage depends on the news cycle. It feels like this is where we are right now. Kevin in Columbia, you agree with the last caller about his takes on World War III and not being pacifists. Where are you at, Kevin? You're on Super Talk.
I'm in Columbia right now, and I've called in a couple of times. You've got a different outlook than what we're used to on WTN. I think that might be what's throwing some of the listeners off a little bit. You had made some great points, and something that I want to point out with this surprise attack in Gaza, and definitely Russia, Iran, China, this is all something that they've had time to plan for. And they have, Russia sucked up and stored up a bunch of foreign exchange money. So they knew that there was going to be sanctions. They've tried to they've had time to plan. The West is coming from behind. Now, whether it be, I am an American before I have any party affiliation whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that caller that hung up, and he's ex-military. I think most military are going to, it's not necessarily about America being feared. It's about us being respected. We have conquered more land and given it back to people than any other nation in the world. We are a beacon. And Israel is the strongest Middle East ally that we've got. I mean, you might think Jordan, they're good, but I think Israel, from their onset, has been that's our shield. We're protecting them. Whether it was Trump in office, Obama, in my opinion, Obama's false red line in Syria is the downfall of America's power in the Middle East. You don't draw a red line and put America's name on it if you're not willing to back it up. So I think that you're right. China, they'll cut us off on things. I think that there are some policies that are being kind of enacted looking forward that will open up more trade with Mexico. I mean, this year America's set to pump out 13.9 million barrels of oil a day. We're on track to do that before the end of the year. So I think that we should not cower in the face of terror, and that's all this is. These are terrorists, and I'm tired of being bullied around in policy. It's time to stand up and punch them in the nose.
Now, while I agree with a lot of your sentiment, I just worry that we're not being. It's not that we're being bullied, but we are being emotionally manipulated into yet another conflict. And my big hang up is that we're not being calculating enough, and that we're just going to jump into something, and then we're in the land of unforeseen consequences again.
Well, first off, I think that we need to acknowledge who our adversaries are and who our friends are, and then we need to, at that point, he's right. We're in the onset of the beginning of World War III. These actors are already in it. If they're not physically in it, they're financially in it. They're backing it, strategizing, selling weapons. And let's not forget, Russia put a damn bounty out on them. Excuse my language, put a bounty out on American soldiers in Afghanistan. We should have responded forcefully with that. So I think that we can put our head in the sand and we can look at all the things that are going to change as the world breaks away from globalization back into spheres of influence. But we've made it through these things before. What really worries me is, China they already make 30% of the semiconductors. Taiwan makes 50% of the rest of the world's. If China takes Taiwan, you want to talk about no more cell phones, no more smart cars. We're at a point where if we don't start looking forward, we are in a great power struggle again. And I think that if America wants to maintain the world order that has kept us where we are for almost 100 years now, I think that it's time to put our metal where our mouth is. That's my opinion.
No, and I get where you're at, but to your point, it's an information war, right? Like you talked about Russian bounties for U.S. soldiers. Now, listen, it depends on which side of this you're on, but you can't argue that this is information war because NBC News reports that the CIA intel says that was not conclusive. BBC reports that wasn't real. Now, whether it was real or not, you have to agree that we're in an information war when you have major media outlets pushing back against that and other media outlets saying that it was real.
And Chris, I'll agree with you on that. At the dawn of the internet, where everybody can just kind of cherry pick the news that fits their opinion, opens us up for misinformation, and not being able to trust national news outlets, in my opinion, is the downfall of the trust from the American people back to, you have to have a free press. It has to be a factual press. And false information, it's the age of sensational journalism.
Yep.
And I think we need to not necessarily, look, could Biden have some stronger policies on oil? Maybe. Could he have some better policies in the Middle East? In my opinion, let's not forget 19 of the 21 hijackers were Saudi Arabian.
Well, and we're not even allowed to have that conversation.
Right. So I don't think that the Saudis need not one more penny of American money. And if they want to buddy up to China, let them bite off into that area over there. The problem is that America didn't learn their lesson after the 70s oil crisis. And, we should have drilled. Hell, at one time, the same crude that we're paying almost $100 a barrel for was going for $15, $16 a barrel for during the Reagan years. And that's what broke Russia and the Soviet Union, was that their chief export was, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more it goes down, the more they have to flood the market to make their budget square. So I think that, yes, we need some long-term strategic planning that needs to be through multiple administrations. It can't be something that as soon as the next president comes in, throws this stuff out and tries a reset button.
Well,
we need a firm, strong policy.
And and thanks for the call, Kevin. I think you nailed it right there, that we need a long-term policy. I think one of our biggest failures is that all the commies, the Chinese, the Russian, they all have a 100-year plan. And we deal in 2 and 4 year cycles in this country. And more often than not, it gets us into trouble.
Thanks, Chris, for taking my call.
Hey, appreciate you, bud. Thanks so much for listening. Travis in Nashville, you know all of our problems. You're going to solve all of our problems. It just says all our problems. Travis, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Yes, I don't know. You know, I'm so confused anymore with the state of affairs of our country. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to. You know, I typically vote Republican all my life, but I just, you know, we have just forgotten the American people. I mean, I just, you know, I know we got stuff going on in Israel and stuff, and I hate that. It's terrible. But like I said, I just don't know. You know that. Republicans nowadays are just like Democrats, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I mean, they just, you know, our insurance is still crazy. You know, if you don't get it through your job, you have to try to buy it somewhere else, and you know, you got people spending, you know, $400, $500, $600, $800 a month just to have insurance on their family.
Yeah.
But yet we can send all this money all over the world. I just think we've gotten to a point to where politicians in general are so out of touch with the American people that they can't even relate to us, and we can't relate to them.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They're way out of touch. And thanks for the call, Travis. The politicians can't relate to us. They're too busy just making bank, lording over us. I did get a text to my comment on, I was talking about China and how World War III is not a good look for us. I said, Chris, so what should we do? Just capitulate because you're afraid that China will cut us off of meds or anything else? If so, we've already lost. I don't want to capitulate. I want to get back to doing what we were doing under Trump, bringing factories back here, bringing manufacturing back here, going America first. We cannot win a World War III if we're not America first. I'm not capitulating. I'm not afraid. I'm just looking at it at face value. How do you win if your biggest enemy will just cut you off from basically all of your goods? It's not a winning strategy. Get the factories back here. Let's get back to what we were doing under Donald Trump. Cheap gas and mean tweets 2024. It's 11:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Sirens are sounding in northern Israel, renewing worries of a second front in Israel's war on Hamas terrorists. This story and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:25. The day is flying by. My name, again, is Chris Hand. Find me online. Twitter, Instagram, Truth Social, at Chris Hand on air. You know, there is other news going on. We got a speakers race happening.
Got new developments in that, too.
Oh.
Ooh.
Is it bad?
Well, it depends on which candidate you are.
Oh. All right. So maybe?
Maybe bad.
All right. All right.
I mean, I'm not about to open up the mic and go, it's bad. I'm telling you right now, it is bad.
You'd never do that.
Yeah, that's not something you would do.
Oh.
That was so funny. Oh, my gosh. All right. Biden, he gave some comments earlier. And apparently, I don't know, are you keeping score at home on this? Bidenomics is working. That's what...
It's about growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Last week's jobs report shows Bidenomics is working.
Oh, yeah, Bidenomics is working. More than half the country is living paycheck to paycheck. It's working.
It's working.
It's working.
Gosh.
I can't believe he still does this. The Bidenomics. The New York Times.
New York Times, Washington Post.
I don't think they meant it as a compliment, but it's working.
He always says it so smug, too.
Oh, my gosh, the smugness.
Yeah, ticks me off.
Whenever he whispers.
Oh, my gosh. He made a point to talk about the ladies in the front row.
How long have we been trying to do this? This has been going on a long time. None of the women in the front row here have been around for more than 2 or 3 years, but some of the guys have been here for a hell of a long time. But all kidding aside, think about it.
Yeah, all kidding aside. Think about it. So while Israel is dealing with Hamas, you know, they're focused in Washington on getting rid of these junk fees.
You know, and as we take these actions, I continue to call on Congress to pass what my friends in the front row here mostly support, the Junk Fee Prevention Act. Hard to say. Anyway, but all kidding aside.
Anyway. Isn't that hard to say? The junk fee, it is. It's hard to say.
The Junk Fee Prevention Act. Hard to say. Anyway, but all kidding aside.
All kidding aside, guys.
It's just joshing. It's just joshing us.
I mean, delivering remarks on junk fees at the White House. That's what Americans care about. You live in paycheck to paycheck? Well, don't worry about that $3 charge on your StubHub account anymore.
StubHub.
I mean, seriously, guys, you ever gone to a Preds game and you're like, what? Where did these junk fees come from? That happens to me every time. I'm glad he's doing something that we can all unify behind. This is the unification of America right here. We can all get behind eliminating junk fees. It's hard to say, but it's worth it. Unbelievable. Old Resident-in-Chief Joe Biden himself. He's working on the important things.
It's working.
It's working. I can't believe, what kind of disconnect does Joe Biden and his administration have that they think today is the best day for this? Seriously. With everything going on in the news, how can this man honestly, truly believe this is what Americans want? Crazy. 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
$11:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Not going to warm up much today, but we will tomorrow before the changes come and the cool down. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Continuing coverage now, Israel at war. We are following multiple reports of red alerts sounded across northern Israel after drones were reportedly flying over from Lebanon, where Hezbollah and Hamas have drones and gliders. And an Israeli armed forces spokesperson is quoted as saying that forces launched retaliatory strikes on Hezbollah command posts in southern Lebanon earlier today after anti-tank missiles were fired at an Israeli position. And right now in our nation's capital, The Hill is reporting Republicans have killed a proposal that would change the House Speaker nominating process. The proposal would have raised the threshold to nominate a speaker to 217 votes to try to avoid the kind of marathon battle there was in electing former Speaker Kevin McCarthy in January. Now all it will take is a simple majority to advance a nominee out of conference. The Washington Examiner says Steve Scalise supporters were against the rule change. Jim Jordan supporters wanted the rules change. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's a song I found. The band is called 5 Times August, and it's just a jam. A little fun. Time check one more time, 11:38, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Again, if you want to find that song, the video's even better. It's on my Twitter page, at Chris Hand on Air. It was in the top 5 on iTunes.
Wow.
5 Times August.
Yeah, that was a banger.
I like it. That was the shortened, abridged version.
Oh, gotcha.
But the video is money. It has like the Born in the USA album cover, but hanging out of his back pocket is a mask.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty based. I'm not going to lie. Check it out on my Twitter, at Chris Hand on Air. Joe in Nashville, you have a comment on junk fees. What's up, Joe? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, man?
How we doing?
Good, bud. All right, I got you were talking about junk fees and priorities, but I'm going to tie that into a little bit to Israel too. I know it kind of sounds funny, but
no, hit me. No.
Anybody that says that they're a Christian and they read their Bible, please, please, please study this. In Romans 1, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This probably sounds going to be long, but I won't take but about a minute. In Romans 1, it talks about nations or people that forget about God or push away the truth or whatever you want to say it.
Yep.
They go through a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part of the cycle is a reprobate mind, which if you translate it literally means insanity. It literally means the brain doesn't work right.
Yeah.
And I always wonder what that would look like. But when I look at this country, and in particular, or people running it, I know what it looks like. They just do things that they completely make no sense. Because Romans 1 is about God's judgment on people that turn away from Him. He just takes His hand away and lets us have our own way.
Yeah.
And then if you want to know about how it goes farther, when He puts leaders, He ordains leaders. He puts every leader in the world He ordained. But He ordained them to either bring blessing to that nation or He had ordained them to bring judgment to that nation. And a lot of people don't like to talk about this kind of stuff, but it's in the Bible too.
Yeah.
So
hey, man, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate the insight. Thanks so much. Michael in Chattanooga, you have a comment on Biden. You're on Super Talk. What's up, Michael?
Oh, hey. I wanted to say something. I'm tripping on something here. Hold on. I got tangled up. Yeah, I wanted to say something about Biden. He gets up there and he waves his arms and says, "We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay." And I say, "Yeah, you put billionaires up in Washington, going to be just fine." So, that's it.
All right, thanks for the call, Michael. I appreciate it. Sounded like you had Commander Biden in the background there. Just biting on his leg.
Coming at him, yeah.
Jeez, look out for that dog. Well, we know he wasn't in a public park. Too soon?
Oh, my God.
What? Is it too soon? Sorry, I'll be serious. Yeah, the news has been crazy today. We do have a speaker's race. CBS reported last night they think both these guys, Scalise and Jim Jordan, they both think that they have the votes. It's interesting. Who are you for? Are you for Scalise? You for Jim Jordan? I mean, both of them, according to CBS, think they have the votes.
Well, I think both Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan think that they are getting closer. They really have been making the rounds all day today ahead of a candidate forum this evening, meeting, for instance, with members of the Republican governance groups. That is a group of lawmakers who represent a lot of swing districts. They also met with members of the Florida congressional delegation as well as the New York delegation. And so both leaders, we caught up with both of them, and they say they feel pretty good about where they are.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to say that, right? They're not going to go in and say, I don't think I have the votes. I'm curious who you guys on the Super Text line would prefer, Scalise or Jim Jordan. I don't know. I'm not really like gung-ho about either of them. I wouldn't be upset about either of them, but neither of them feel like a home run. But, there is some good news. McCarthy has shut down rumors that he would be open to it again. So that's good news.
One person who now appears to be taking their name out of the running is the former Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. As we know, he said last week that he would not run again, but then he seemed to leave the door open yesterday when he said that it would be up to the Republican conference to decide whether or not to nominate him again. And late today, he said that he is now asking members not to nominate him, although I did talk to a few late this afternoon who say they are still behind the former Speaker, but unclear if anyone is going to put his name in the hat officially.
Yeah. So, I told people not to nominate me. Guys, please hold your applause. But is this whole thing going to be quick for the Speaker's race? It could be over as soon as tonight. Are there going to be hang-ups? Possibly.
Members have a lot of concerns, whether that's fiscal matters, whether that's the issue of rules. A lot of members are calling for changes in this motion to vacate where any one member can oust the Speaker. So a lot of members want to see change behind that. And then also, of course, as you know, Nancy, we're also facing potentially another government shutdown next month if no action is taken. So there's also questions about what these two leaders, how they might approach that situation. Will they adhere to the deal that Kevin McCarthy struck with the White House earlier this year, or will they go in a different direction? So there are a lot of questions that are still unresolved, which is why this could either be wrapped up quickly or be drawn out.
What a non-answer. It could be quick. Could be very long. We are unaware here at CBS News. I like Jason on the Super Text line says, I choose option C, government shutdown. Oh, geez, you guys are funny. 0727, Jordan, but actions over names. Ty says his opinion, not that they matter anymore these days, is that Scalise is a rhino. Do people think Scalise is a rhino? I haven't heard that. 5410 says whoever the new Speaker is, they'll be handcuffed. 8555 asked him what the song I played a moment ago was. That was 5 Times August. Ain't No Rock and Roll. A lot of people saying Jim Jordan. It seems like the majority of people want Jim Jordan. Oh, yeah. Got a few guys jumping in saying Trump. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure that that's realistic at this point in time. Although I'd be in. I'd do it for the memes. Oh, Mac, somebody picked you for Speaker of the House. Woo! Don't be too excited. Mac wouldn't be a very good speaker. He wouldn't show up on Fridays. He would be late. Actually, you'd probably fit right in with the rest of Congress.
I was about to say, that seems on par. I feel like I'm already there.
You would fit right in, actually.
Have you been reading some of the... I mean, Jordan, Jim Jordan, Jordan all day, Jim Jordan, Trump, Jordan, JJ. It's a lot of Jim Jordan.
A lot of Jordan. It's interesting. I'd be fine with Jim Jordan.
Who was yours was Donaldson, right?
I like Byron.
Yeah.
We got one vote from Brian for Big Bird.
Yeah.
So
I'm in.
Is that like a joke? Was that a joke? Is that somebody's nickname? Is there a politician with the nickname
that
Big
would
Bird?
be a politician's nickname. I don't know.
I got one from 0231. Jordan does nothing but talk. Just in from Newsmax, Scalise has been voted in, somebody said.
Yeah, I'm looking that up.
Yeah, verify that, Mac. If it's true, we need a breaking news sounder. I don't see that anywhere.
Me either.
You just messing with us now? Brian,
Why are you trying to?
Just trying to send in breaking news and have us verify it. Cougar Chow for Congress. All right. All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We got Matt Murphy joining us next. He's in at noon. Murphy Show on the way. More of your super texts. Keep sending them in. Keep calling in. 615-737-9986. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.